Montreal Schnitzel will be crossing the line to win a scarcely believable and dominant victory here at Monaco.
Apex Online Racing is sponsored by Elgato, who created this lovely stream deck. For more information about the stream deck, the link is in the description below.
Welcome along to Montreal for round 7 of the AOR F1 Championship, and after a mid-season break we are back in action for what should be a great race around one of the classic Formula 1 circuits, the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, built on the site that was used for the World Expo Fair back in the 1960s, named after one of the greatest drivers in the history of Canadian motorsport, and absolutely of course the son of Gilles Villeneuve, went on to win the Formula 1 Championship in 1997. 100,000 supporters packing the stands here today, and well, hopefully we're not too rusty, and hopefully the drivers are not either, as we go racing once again. And can you believe it, after tonight we're already 1/3 of the way through the season. So as we prepare for qualifying, let's take a quick look at this magnificent 4.3 kilometre circuit. 14 corners, very much a low downforce circuit here. 3 DRS zones means, unlike Monaco where we still saw a fair share of overtaking action, this is statistically one of the most highest tracks for overtakes anywhere in the Formula 1 calendar. And, well, anyone getting their braking wrong into the final chicane may get a deftly embrace with the infamous Wall of Champions. It is a 35-lap race here today at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and we're still waiting for that bonus point to be won inside the top 10. Will it be a magnificent 7 where we finally get someone in the top 10 getting that bonus point? Just doesn't seem to happen so far. And in terms of the tyre choices, it is the fastest choice of Pirelli dry rubber. Will we get our first wet race action of the season? We're about to find out. And before we get underway with our 18-minute qualifying session, let's have a look at the championship standings going into this particular event. And after 5 wins from the first 6 races of this season, the reigning and defending champion Tyrrell Schnitzel has established a massive 46-point advantage, with Jim Michael his closer challenger with Casper and Speed Barry continuing their personal duel over 4 spots. Save Frosty in 6th after a disappointing Monaco Grand Prix. Hugh Golf moving up to 7th after some excellent recent results ahead of Ollie D, with Jim Roy and Widgers making up the rest of the top 10. Widgers continuing his absences from the grid due to his esports commitments, and once again will not be racing here tonight. And in terms of the Constructors' Championship, it was a difficult race for the Williams team, and they saw their gap at the top of the Constructors' standings cut to 22 points, with the remarkable efforts of Schnitzel keeping them in the hunt. Alfa Romeo and Toro Rosso well behind, but having a nice battle over first spot. McLaren and Racing Point started to pull away from the rest, and despite a good point score, Ferrari still find themselves rooted to the very bottom of the team standings of AOR F1. And well, he's been enjoying the beautiful city of Montreal and all that has to offer, and he is none other than Andy Campbell. Andy, we both seem to be quite tired this week after all our busy commitments, but what a magnificent circuit this is. It is one of the tracks we always look forward to visiting.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, everyone. Welcome along to round number 7 here at the Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. I can't even say. The annual raft race that they have here on the St. Lawrence River out the back of the paddock. Williams actually managed to win that again as well, and Ferrari, unfortunately, their craft sunk just like their Constructors' Championship hopes are at the moment. It's a really enjoyable circuit. It's one of those tracks that a lot of the drivers do enjoy, but do look out. There's going to be a lot of issues when it comes to penalties tonight as well. It's a very easy circuit to pick up warnings and therefore obviously penalties, especially through turns 13 and 14, the last 2 corners at the chicane next to that infamous Wall of Champions. Looks like we're going to have a pretty good grid here tonight. We'll go through a few changes and things that have happened shortly once we get underway, but looking forward to this. This should be a really exciting race. Can't wait to see what happens.
Thanks for that, Andy. And yes, there have been significant changes after the Monaco Grand Prix, and well, we're going to start with a big congratulations to one of our stars of this particular grid. The season 17 champion Jim Michael has been promoted, as you may have seen on Twitter, to the full Williams esports driver seat. So Andy, your reaction to that is a great achievement that Michael has done, and that's a fine reward for all his hard work that he's put in.
Absolutely. So, of course, congratulations to Michael on his promotion from the Williams gym team up to the full esports team. Really looking forward to seeing how he takes that. What will be an obvious confidence boost as well, and taking that into tonight. Last couple of rounds been a little bit tricky. He was obviously got caught out in an incident on lap 1 in Monaco and managed to come back through for 4th place in the end. So congratulations to him on his promotion, and we'll see how he moves forward with that tonight. He also has a new teammate as well in at Williams. Our super sub reserve Alvaro Anzar is now full-time at the Williams team after Truesdale has had to drop out of the league. Obviously we don't know the reasons why, and even if we did, we wouldn't be going into them, but obviously we wish him all the best regardless of whatever it is. But that means that obviously we will be seeing Anzar on a weekly basis now in the Williams team, and congratulations to him also on his full-time promotion.
Yes, and just mentioning, adding to the whole Truesdale situation, I'm sure whatever he's doing. It is a decision he didn't take lightly. But he leaves the division with a pretty decent record, several podiums, particularly Bahrain, where he was absolutely rapid, and one of the two drivers, along with Michael, who really took the fight to Schnitzel in those early rounds of the season. So hopefully we will see him again on the F1 grid one day. But yeah, big opportunity for Varo Aznar, Andy. He has impressed in the reserve slot at times this season, but you know, Michael and Truesdale, given that they were the season 15 and 16 champions, that is you know, a significant loss to the Williams team as they attempt to win the team championship this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously Williams on 170 points in the team's championship, with Mercedes next up 22 points behind them. You know, when you're losing two former champions, or you lose one former champion, from your team that had two former champions, it is obviously a big loss. But we have seen from Alvaro Anzar, he is capable of some really fast performances. I still remember the season opener in Melbourne, where he was in the lead for the first stint of the race, having jumped into the lead off the start line. So if he can pick up those kind of performances, then he will be a good substitute for Truesdale moving forward in the Williams team, because of course they will be looking to pick up more and more points to try to pull away from Mercedes in that championship for the constructors as well.
Yes, now so those of you who have tuned in to watch might have been expecting a qualifying session, but we are having a little bit of a delay due to some technical issues, but we will be going on the way shortly. Your impressions of the circuit, Gilles Villeneuve, Andy, in terms of the real life sport, any particular memories? I mean, for me personally, there's two which really stand out. One being Lewis Hamilton's first win on his first visit in 2007, where, as we've seen over the years, he has gone on to dominate this circuit many times. It's probably one of his top three tracks in terms of performances over the years. And of course the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, which was one of the longest races F1's ever seen, won by Jenson Button on the final lap.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of them there. You mentioned obviously Hamilton's first win in 2007. That was also the same year we've seen that horrendous crash for Robert Kubica, who then came back the following year and took his one and only victory at the same circuit in 2008. You mentioned the longest Grand Prix in history, which was of course 2011. Button made 6 pit stops during that race and still came out on the final lap to take the victory. I always remember 1999 when the Wall of Champions got its name. Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher all hitting the wall in one single race. That's where the name came from, and it was so incredible to watch 3 world champions getting caught out at the same corner, and it shows you just how tricky this track can be. It is a bit of a fan favourite, it is a bit of a driver favourite as well. It's pretty quick, but there's a lot of heavy braking zones, especially into turn number 10. We'll see a lot of overtaking into the hairpin, 3 DRS zones to take care of as well. And it's going to mean that the drivers, if they can stay close enough, shouldn't get dropped off too much unless someone has extremely rapid pace around here.
Yes, well, it's gone so quickly, hasn't it, Andy? I mean, after tonight's race, we are a third of the way through this 21 season calendar already. I don't know where the weeks have gone. Oh, seem to have lost Andy there for a second. We do apologise. And it looks like...
I'm still here. I'm still here, so I don't know what happened there. Apologies.
That's okay.
I think I got lost in my own thoughts. But yeah, it has gone by pretty quickly. I mean, to think we're at round 7 already, as you say, is incredible. Obviously, you will notice we are still waiting on the start. We've had a few lobby issues. We shouldn't be too much longer, hopefully, in getting underway. We'll keep you up to date with that. I'm thinking at the moment, no, just while we've got this moment, there was, remember from Monaco, quite a few incidents at Monaco in a race that Schnitzel completely blew the field away. And there has been a few penalties handed out in that. Now, it hasn't made any changes to the results at Monaco, but I still feel it's obviously important to let everybody know what has happened, just in case you haven't been on the forums. So there was an incident between Jim Roy and R2, which was down at the Lowe's hairpin. Jim Roy has picked up 10 penalty points for that, which will be added to his licence. Obviously, if they pick up so many, they can get qualifying and race bans as well. So he's picked up 10 penalty points for that. He did get a time penalty as well, but it didn't make a difference to his P9 finishing position. position. Another one was Michael, who's picked up 5 penalty points for an incident with his new teammate Alvaro Anzar, ironically enough, down at the Mirabel hairpin. He picked up a 5-second penalty as well, but again, what is that didn't make any change to his position. He still took the P4. And Speed Barry, who took that lovely P3 as well, he picked up 10 penalty points and a 10-second penalty, again not influencing his finishing position, and that was for an incident with Hugo in the racing point down at the Portier corner, and I believe that was the incident that did catch the Racing Point's front wing and cause it damage. But again, the penalty for times did not affect any positions in that one there. We've got Alvaro Anzar now full-time in the Williams. We should be having Danny racing here for Racing Point. Hugo is not here tonight. He's been racing in the French Formula 4 series for real life, so hopefully he's had a good race today. And of course, Viegers isn't here in the Haas as he is preparing for week 2 of the esports event, which is coming up this week.
Yes, I am particularly looking forward to that. It felt like the competition of the very top of the esports series has really ramped up, especially given that, you know, the past 2 times we've seen it, it's been sort of mostly dominated by Brendan Lee, but he didn't have it his own way in those first 3 races, did he?
No, he did not, and it obviously then makes it very interesting for us as viewers to watch. Obviously, Brendan's an extremely talented and fast driver. He don't become the 2-time champion for nothing, but he's got quite a bit of competition this season, and that is really good for us as viewers to see, because then he's really going to be challenged. We're really going to see what he can do as well, and it means we're going to see some more names coming to the forefront. Ferrari in it for the first season as well. They obviously took the victory as well with Tanica in that first race. So there's some fantastic stuff going on, and we're hoping we'll be able to get this qualifying session started as well very shortly. Again, some lobby issues we can only apologise for.
Yes, well, I've said it. I said it a couple of years ago. I believe that once the esports started getting established on these Formula 1 games, I think one day they'll become a official part of the support schedule for the F1 race weekends. It'll be like a digital race on like a Saturday evening or something like that before the actual race on a Sunday. And you know, I think the exposure of the series, it's really good to see like how you get the real drivers involved, especially some of the younger ones like Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly. So I think the exposure will only increase from here.
Yeah, absolutely, and it could be another possibility for moving forward. We've got obviously F3 and F2 supporting F1 at the moment. You never know, that could be something that takes it into the evening as well, as you say, possibly on a Saturday where we get a digital online sort of race beforehand or something like that. And that could be very interesting, having a full season where they run to the calendar as well. That could be really interesting to see how that works. But it's great that it's picking up traction. It gives really good exposure for the drivers that are out there. There's some fantastic talents out there across all the platforms, and to see them starting to get that exposure and getting that recognition that a lot of them do deserve is absolutely brilliant, and I hope it goes from strength to strength from years moving forward.
Funny thing, Andy, next year in 2020 it will be nearly 4 years since I started doing commentary, and I can still remember, as I'm sure you do as well, how sort of basic commentary on F1 2016 was. You had to sort of join as a car and then watch it through the actual telemetry, and then quit the actual session, then become a spectator. It was ridiculous, but you had all the grid times, and then you had to then during the formation like quit and then rejoin quickly before the race started, and you didn't have anything. All you could do was just switch between the cars, and you didn't even have the drivers list on the left hand side to see who was in what position. It was ridiculous, but kind of funny when you look back at it and how far it's come since then.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, personally, I never had that problem because I didn't start commentating until last year. I'm actually coming up on my first anniversary of doing commentaries at the end of this month. In fact, right now, actually, pretty much, is when I started doing commentaries for AOR. So happy 1 year anniversary to me. But yeah, I mean, I do remember seeing that a few times when it came to watching them and, obviously doing maybe some online races ourselves. But it shows you again just how much the Codemasters and that, and even other games as well, they've expanded on it to ensure that it's covered. They know where this is starting to head. It's becoming bigger and bigger, and that's exactly what we want to be seeing. So it's fantastic stuff. And at least now, as you say, we don't need to jump into a car, taking up a space, jump back out, watch everyone else, and not have all the telemetry and everything that we need to get going. So yeah, it's much easier now than what it used to be, that's for sure.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of improvements in my opinion that can be done to the spectator mode, but that's a discussion for another day. So far this season, Andy, we've had 6 rounds, 5 of them being won by one driver. We've had, including Truesdale, 5 different drivers onto the podium. So it's with Truesdale leaving the division, season 15 champion, very decorated at this level. This will open the door to other drivers getting on the podium, I think, going forward.
It definitely does. And I mean, even with Truesdale there was always that possibility. We know he was a strong driver, of course he is, but it does give a little bit of an additional possibility moving forward. It'll be interesting to see how Alvaro Anzar does now in the Williams. Will he be getting any assistance on setups from his new teammate of Michael? Who knows? We don't know how that inter-team stuff will carry on, but there is a lot of good drivers, as we've said, week on, week in here. There's many quick drivers. We've seen, we've both mentioned it a few times, Speed Barry, for example, and the Toro Rosso, first time on the podium in China. He's followed that up with a podium in Monaco. He's 4th in the championship just now, behind the top 3 of Schnitzel, Michael and Casper, if you exclude Truesdale, who's 3rd at the moment. And he's came out of nowhere with some fantastic pace. We've seen Frosty having some great races as well. Hugo from Baku as well was another one. But it's always the same question at the moment, and it doesn't mean that it's boring. Who is going to stop the Mercedes? Who is going to stop Schnitzel from taking the victories? As you say, 5 out of 6 so far. The only one that's won a race other than Schnitzel is Michael in China, and Schnitzel was 2nd in that one. He's never been lower than 2nd yet. And it's just who can stop him, really?
Yes, well, in Williams, Michael, he's one of the drivers who could stop him realistically, but it may be time for someone else to step up to the plate, as it were. We still seem to be having hosting issues. Not sure if it's PSM related or if it's related to one driver specifically. The lobby is pretty much full, and I think it looks like we are beginning to ready up here, so I think we are going to finally get underway. Due to the delays, there will not be any post-race interviews tonight, although Andy and myself will share a few post-race thoughts as usual before we go off the air. But yes, the final countdown, as famously sung by Europe, we are about to get underway for qualifying. So thank you very much for your patience, and apologies for the technical issues which were beyond our control, but we will make up for it, I'm sure, with a fabulous session of qualifying at this great circuit, which in terms of its attributes, very much a low downforce circuit, Andy. In some ways it's not too dissimilar to Monza, given that it's just a selection of straights with a few chicanes to slow the drives down. 76% of the lap taking a full throttle.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a pretty similar in that sense. A lot of long straights, heavy braking. Brakes are a major thing round here. It is extremely heavy braking zone, especially into the likes of turn 10 at the far end of the track. And it's a track that a lot of people do enjoy, but it is a very tricky one to get right because of the way the curbs are, because of the way the corner cut rules are as well. It's very, very easy to pick up penalties around here, especially into that final corner. We've got nice, beautiful blue skies and sunshine for qualifying. It'll be interesting to see what we have for the race. I will try and see if I can find someone to let me know very shortly. And strategy is going to be interesting as well, because I've been talking to a couple of the drivers, and there's talks that the best strategy around here is actually a 2-stopper rather than the traditional 1-stopper that we see at most races. So we'll come on to that shortly and we'll go through it in a bit more detail. But strategy is going to be very different tonight in comparison to what we see at other tracks as well.
Yes, I mean, there are rumours that we could see a 2-stop strategy is employed tonight. It's a very short pit lane here compared to the tracks we have raced in the past 6 rounds, so there's a very little loss here, given that the exit cuts out the entirety of turn 1 and 2. So yeah, the two-stop may well be employed because the hard compound, Andy, is not very good performance-wise.
No, it's you know, most people have been saying that the hards are not the greatest race tyre around here. They will last around about 20 laps or so, is what I've been told. But in terms of racing tyre, it's the softs and the mediums. The softs can go around about 5 to 10 laps, but drivers have been telling me that there is a very large drop-off in the soft tyre performance after you get to around about 5 or so laps on them. Mediums will go around about 12 to 17, and as we've been saying, two stops would see soft, medium. We might see some people put further down the field, maybe try the one stopper, maybe try and go medium to hard or something like that. But it'll be interesting to see what goes on in that scenario when we get into the race. And obviously, is it going to be a dry race? Because that could really throw the proverbial cat amongst the pigeons as well.
Yes, and as ever, we're going to go on board with a driver for a hot lap of this circuit. So take it away, Andy, as we go on board with Nicholas Matteo in the Haas team.
Fantastic. Yep, here we go, over the front, start and finish line towards turn one, just using that little bit of darker tarmac for your braking point, down to second gear for turn two, quickly up to third to eliminate the wheel spin, under the bridge, heading up now towards turn number 3 and 4, nicely to the inside, take as much curb as you dare, a little bit of grass on the left hand side through turns 5 and up towards turn 6. I think this is a tricky little corner as well. You need to take a lot of curb, it's very easy. You can see there that Nicholas is up to 5th gear before he's even out of turn number 7 to eliminate wheel spin. DRS down here under the bridge into turns 8 and 9. Again, it's very easy to get warnings through there as well. He's run a bit wide through the second part of turn number 9 up towards turn 10. They're very quick lap, hard on the brakes into the hairpin. Remember, Nigel Mansell rolled to a stop, waving to the crowds as he was in too high a gear. Through turn 11, which is just a curve. Turn 12 is just the exact same thing as well. And we're coming down the DRS now towards turn 13 and 14. The tricky last chicane. Wall of Champions on your right hand side. Completely obliterate the curbing on the right, using it as much as you can. Across the line we go, and the lap time was invalidated, and it was a 1 minute 7.9 as we see Danny in the racing point go a 1 minute 7.8. I've been told that we could even see a low 1 minute 7 for pole time round here, depending on if everybody can hook it up, but we're going to be in the 7s, that's for sure, at least.
Yes, and as we've seen immediately, there were going to be rumours of teams employing the tow, which we often see at tracks like Baku and Monza, and it's been employed by the Williams team here, and that's allowed Michael to go up into P2. Now, certain other tracks, Andy, they try and avoid the fastest compound, but you expect most of the drivers to be using the soft compound here today?
Well, considering that I've just been given the weather forecast for the race, it is very possible that we will see soft. I would maybe normally see maybe a few going for mediums and go medium soft maybe for the end, but I've been informed we've got a dry qualifying session, but it will be intermediate conditions for the start of the race, but it should dry up relatively quickly and then mean back to dry weather. So if it is wet at the start, it won't matter what tyres they qualify on in this session, because they'll be starting on intermediates. So expect to see, if that is the case, expect to see everybody running soft compound tyres for the entirety of this session. Maybe, depending on how long the rain stays around for, they might either go for mediums, maybe try and push a one stop, maybe go for the hards if they feel they can keep the temperature in them. But with the rain, the lower track temperatures, I don't think we'll see too much of the hard compound tyre. Watch as I'm made to look like an absolute fool now, as your championship leader goes to the top on a 1 minute 7.6.
Yes, and with the fact that the race will be an intermediate start, there may be a few compromises made to the setup to ensure that they perform well in both wet and dry conditions, because they will have to still run low downforce, otherwise they'll be sitting ducks on the full throttle sections. So could be a very tricky position for some of these drivers to be in, trying to navigate, especially the first sector in particular in the wet is very tricky indeed.
Oh yeah, no, especially any for me. I mean, I've been trying the no assist stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I sit here rather than race. I struggle with it, and especially since you put some grease on the track, some wet weather on there, I'm going around more than a spinning top on these tracks. It's very, very tricky, and especially as you say, that first sector, because there's a lot of curbs, a lot of quick turns, you're under the trees for a good part of that first sector as well. The water will just stick around a bit longer than other parts of the track, so it's going to be very, very tricky in the early stages. The Red Bull Nardi Perez has put himself into pole position at the moment now. 1 minute 7.5, 7/100ths clear of your championship leader in Schnitzel. Daniel Alves up there in third at the moment for McLaren. Speed Barry in fourth, and Danny, the reserve in the Racing Point, is currently in fifth. The drivers down to Lee Finlay in 13th. Have all set a lap time. We're still waiting on 4 drivers to do a lap, and everybody is within a second of pole position at the moment.
Yeah, Vauras not popping up into 5th position, just ahead of his fellow S2B driver Danny MG. So a solid start to Vauras, not only just over 0.2 of a second off the pole position time. We suspect that will go down significantly. According to some sources, a 107.1 flat in full dry setup is possible from some of the drivers. I think Schnitzel among those. But it's going to be a long race here, and trying to make as little error as possible is going to be the key thing. Because Andy, this is certainly one of those tracks where grabbing those time penalties can be very easy. And if you can avoid and keep it clean, even if you don't have the pace, as we saw in Season 16, Michael did not win the race on track, but because he kept it clean, he won the race.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said there in the extended build-up, it is a track that is very easy to pick up warnings and thus penalties just for going too much over the curb, especially into the final chicane. And as you say, it could be the driver that avoids getting any or is as clean as possible that might just jump a few places at the end of the race, gain a few extra points. Depending on how things go up front, who knows, the race might be decided on it again. It is definitely a track where that is a distinct possibility because of the layout of the track. We've got 10.5 minutes to go, and it'll be interesting to see who ends up in pole. Still waiting on lap times from Blizzard, Jim Roy, Nicholas Matteo and Casper. Blizzard and Nicholas Matteo are out on track at the moment, and I think Blizzard's just heading for the line just now, but I think he might have invalidated his lap doing exactly what Nicholas Matteo did on his first lap, which was running wide through turn number 9. He heads for the line now, and we'll see if he gets the time. It was a 1 minute 8.3, so it wouldn't have been trouble on the top, which is now Danny MG on a 1 minute 7.5. So your top 3 are covered by a 10th of a second just now at the front.
Yes, decent stuff from Danny MG. I think there's still a few tenths of time to be found out there. So Nicholas Matteo, we saw him for the hot lap earlier. He invalidated this first run with a clear cut. I saw definitely a clear cut at the chicane at the end of the lap. The free chicanes on this track are so tricky because the speeds, Andy, that you carry through these chicanes, that marks it out, because a lot of chicanes at other tracks on this game, you don't carry the speed that you do here. But, you know, some of these chicanes, you're going at them, you know, at least 4th gear, which is unusual for chicanes, because generally speaking, chicanes are meant to, you know, slow you down quite a bit, but these ones you're carrying well over 100 miles an hour through some of these corners.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, you can easily, as you say, around about 4th or 5th gear, chucking it in, using as much of the curb as you dare before you get told off by the stewards and a slap on the wrist for it. So it's definitely one of those very quick tracks. That's why we're just over the 60-second mark in total for a lap time. And it's going to be a fast and furious race as well, because it's going to be like this for the entirety off. I think we've got, is it 35 laps we've got here tonight as well?
Yes.
For 50%, yeah. So, you know, they're going to fly by very, very quickly, even with the addition of slightly wet conditions at the start of the race. Still waiting on lap times from those bottom 4. Blizzard and Nicholas Matteo have just repitted, having got more invalidations. Casper's there on track at the moment. Schnitzel currently on a fast lap and currently going through sector 2.
Yes, Michael, we just saw setting a 107.652, moving himself up to 4th in the standings. Oh, and Schnitzel taking quite a narrow line through that corner. And yeah, I think he cut it. Yeah, he's invalidated. So that's another run scrubbed off by race control. They don't take too kindly to the corner cuts around here. It's such a tricky circuit to get a clean lap in here. You know, slightest miscalculation and they will invalidate it. So Schnitzel will probably have to go back to the pits for it. It seems like it's gone a little bit dark. A few clouds gathering, although I doubt we'll get rain before the end of the session. I think that's Avara. Is that Avara Asnar just going past Schnitzel? No, that's Michael on his in lap. Avara Asnar is out there, so let's go on board with the new Williams driver in AOR F1. Currently P7. Not a bad effort from him so far. We've seen some decent drives from him as a reserve, but now he's a full-time driver on this grid, so expect to see him here every week for Williams, trying to continue the good work that Truesdale started. Through the final chicane he goes, and again, a very Very nervous moment there. That could have been invalidation. Let's see if it is. He crosses the line and he goes up to P3. So he's ahead of Schnitzel and Michael at the moment. And if that were to be the grid at the end, I think he'd be delighted with his efforts there.
Yeah, definitely so. Just really pushing the limits through that final chicane there, but within the limits that Race Control are happy with. It'll be interesting to see. The Alfa Romeos are doing a bit of slipstream, and Tactician is helping Casper down the back straight just now. He's waited up for him, and the Dutchman's getting a lovely draft down towards the final chicane. Tactician pulls to the right to allow Casper to go through the final chicane. Nicely done, just getting close to the wall of champions. Up towards the line, he had a good result. He's now up into 8th, so just shows you 2 times down, 2 and a bit times down. You'd think, yeah, that's a good lap time, and it's only 8th. It shows you just how tight this field is, and that was with a bit of slipstreaming as well.
It is incredibly tight up there, Andy. It is barely 1.5 tenths covering the top 5 at the moment. This is what we have come to expect in this tier. The qualifying sessions usually are always ferociously fought over by every single driver on the grid. Less than a second covering the top 14 currently. And it looks like Casper is now going to give Tactician some help on the... No, well, not like that they won't be. So I think Tactician's going to... got a bit of tow there. Let's see, let's have a look at one of the Ferrari drivers. R2 has come back in, so he's in P14. VSL Wayne in P11. Let's see if Tactician's done 2 laps on those tyres. So he's definitely on an in lap. Now, Speed Bar, we haven't seen much of him so far. We talked about him earlier, picking up those penalty points. And he's actually gone up to P2, we've just seen. So, again, not even a tenth covering the top 4 now, Andy. This is incredible.
Yeah, very, very close indeed, and it could be about to get even closer. The Red Bulls have been drafting themselves down the back straight. Roy is the only driver not to set a lap. Here he goes. It was a 1 minute 7.8, but he invalidated it, so that would only have been good enough for about 9th place roughly. But look at that. We're going to have, by the looks of it at the moment, the entire field of 17 drivers within a second of each other here, and that is extremely good for us, because this is going to make it really interesting.
Absolutely. And Alves barely getting out of the wall champions. He did tap it slightly, and I think he may have invalidated it. We didn't improve anyway, but he's in P7 at the moment, so still a decent place to be. Now, given that it's a wet start, there's not going to be really any incentive to start outside the top 10 in terms of tyre choice, because everyone will start on the intermediate tyres, assuming the rain does come for the race later. So Danny MG is out there. They're all in laps because they've done a lap on those tyres already. Anyone else? Let's see, Alex, one of the veterans of the site, of course. Feels like he's been around here forever, and he will probably tell you himself it's felt like forever as well. He's had some difficult races recently, has to be said, after quite a solid start to the season. But Alex, P14 at the moment, 8 tenths of a second off the benchmark of 107.512. So let's see what Alex can do as he heads for the final chicane. I swear, Andy, every time I see a driver go through this corner, it looks like they cut it, but obviously not, because we have had plenty of lap times set.
Yeah, definitely. So Danny's just improved on his lap time, 1 minute 7.3, so he's now 2 times clear of everyone else, as Alex puts himself up into 11th place for that recent lap time. And yeah, he's been a bit tricky recently for him. He was on for some points in Monaco, and he got absolutely shunted by Lee Findlay. We're still waiting on the outcome of that stewards inquiry. Obviously they're taking a little bit longer to go through that one than they have some of the others, so if we get any news on that by next week, I'll bring that to you if it means any penalties. And at the moment it does mean Alex is ahead of Lee as well, because he's down in 13th, still waiting just for Roy to make a lap time, and he's leaving it to the death now, so he's only got a 1-shot pop at this one to see if he can get himself up the grid. Expect the track to be extremely busy very shortly. A few drivers out on a lap, including your 2 championship protagonists, Schnitzel, who's just coming to the start of turns 8 and 9. Michael is just coming through the end of sector 2, and he's 2 tenths up on his quickest time at the moment, so that's pretty good from him. Schnitzel's just backed out of his lap, so something's gone wrong there, and that means no improvement for the Mercedes this time by, so I think Michael could be on for a quick lap here.
Yeah, and Tyrrell Schnitzel's only got 3 minutes of the session to go, so unless he dials down his tyres to get the temperatures back under control, Schnitzel may not get another chance today, which would be a best of P5, but we'll see if he can go again. He won't have time to get back into the pits and back out again, because it takes at least a minute for all the animations to kick in. And look at this, the Williams drivers once again teaming up to get their drafting done. And there's yellow flags, a few slow cars ahead. Yeah, that's Schnitzel trying to get out of the way. of Michael. So Michael then heading through the final corner. That looked like a perfect exit out of the chicane. He's P6 at the moment. Where is the Season 16 champion going to end up? He crosses the line, and it's going to be only P5 ahead of Tyrell Schnitzel, though, crucially, but still 2/10 away. So I think this is definitely a sign, unless Danny MG and Speedbar generally have this blistering pace that Michael in particular has got a little bit more downforce on there to prepare for the wet start to the race.
It's quite possible indeed. I mean, he did improve in that time, but it was only by 4/100ths of a second, I do believe. But it puts him ahead of his championship rival, who I do think might have just... The reason he slowed down, I think, is I don't think it was an invalidation. I think he might have made a mistake through turns 8 and 9, because when I picked him up, after just jumping to Michael, he was going extremely slowly, and the only way he would have been going that slow is if he jammed the brakes on. So I think he's going a bit sideways coming out of this corner. He's done it better this time by though, and he's heading up towards turn 10. That's Alvaro Lanza. Oh, Jesus Michaels, that was very, very close indeed from the Mercedes driver into the hairpin at the top end of the track. 1:25 to go in qualifying here, and it's getting busy because look, yellow flags down the back straight. There is drivers everywhere. Goodness me, Schnitzel leaving that one there, getting all the draft off of Michael he could into the final corner. Here he goes across the line, your championship leader. Can he improve? 2 times down at the moment in 6th. Goes up to 4th, but he's still 2 times down on Danny MG's time, and it just shows you how quick the Spaniard is here tonight with that. He's on an outlap at the moment, 1 minute to go. Everybody except for Wayne is on track.
Yeah, and now Nardi Perez trying to fight back. Speedbar and Danny MG on their outlaps at the moment, so we will take track X as it looks as though Schnitzel is only going to be P4 at best. Nice teamwork from the Red Bull drivers here. Nardi Perez through the final corner. It's going to get more of a tow of another car up ahead. So Nardi Perez, where will he end up? It's going to be only P3 still, so he might have invalidated just then. Speedbar just going through the end of sector 1, so we're going to keep an eye on him for now. Michael has done 2 laps on those softs, so he may still be going. Tyrell Schnitzel, is he still on a flying lap?
I'm not too sure if he is, because no, he's backed right out. He's low on fuel, so he's not going to improve on 4th. He's backed right out of it, so no improvement on 4th for your current championship leader and defending champion as the clock ticks down to 0 and the checkered flag is now out. So the first one, I believe, coming across the line is going to be Alvaro Anzar as he comes flying into the final chicane, no lower than 120 miles an hour through there. That's ridiculous. Michael's just put himself up into 2nd though, with Anzar up into 3rd, so it's a Williams 2-3 at the moment. Speedbarry across the line pops him down to the 2nd.
P2. Only P2 for Speedbarry. That opens the door for Danny MG. Is there anyone else out there who can beat that time? Schnitzel is back in the pits.
Into the final chicane goes Roy. Got a fantastic slipstream off his teammate Nardi Perez there, and here he goes. He's not set a lap time yet. What can he do? 5th place for the Red Bull, so it's a Red Bull 5-6 at the moment. Danny's not improved on his final lap. Casper's out there about to cross the line just now. Stays in 10th. Does Casper Alex into pit lane? Lee Finley going slow and tactician in pit lane. So that is it. That is your lineup, and it is don't mean to be rude, and it's not meant that way at all, but it's a bit of an unexpected 1-2 at the front with Danny MG and Speedbarry, but they've been blisteringly quick. Williams 2nd row with Michael and Alvaro Anzar, all Red Bull 3rd row with Jim Roy and Jim Nardi Perez, and your defending and a current championship leader Tyrell Schnitzel will have to start down in 7th place alongside Daniel Alves, Nicholas Matteo and 9th, Casper rounding out the top 10. The entire field is 17, covered by 9/10 of a second.
Yes, well, this is the first time this season we have not seen either Michael or Schnitzel on the front row of the grid, so that in itself is a pretty different situation that we find ourselves in. And if the 2-week break has mixed things up just a little bit, maybe we should have more of them. Well, obviously we can't do that, otherwise the season would take about 2 years to finish. But yeah, big congratulations to Danny MG, who is a former race winner at this level. Back in season, I think it was 17, he won a race at this level before coming back. But yeah, a pole position here at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, and he takes it just, and I mean just ahead of Speedbarry in 2nd. Then row 2 we have Williams, Michael and Alvaro Aznar, so a superb debut of Alvaro Aznar as Williams lock out the 2nd row. Jim Roy in 5th, Nardi Perez in 6th, and in the end Schnitzel slipping down to P7. I think that is his worst qualifying performance of the season. Dan Alves in 8th, Nicholas Matera in 9th, Casper in 10th, Save Frosty and Alex on row 6, R2 and Blizzard on row 7, then Lee Finley, VSR Wayne and Tactician making up the grid. Wow, what are your impressions of that qualifying session? That has certainly surprised a few people watching, including myself.
That is, let's just say I'm slightly grinning like a bit of a Cheshire cat right now, because it really does, along with this weather that you can possibly see just now, or you're about to see shortly, because it is raining. This is going to make things very interesting. We've got Danny and Speed Barry up there. We've seen Speed Barry, how quick he's been so far this season. You've got the Williams on row 2, you've got the Red Bulls up there on row 3, Schnitzel down in 7th. It's a bit of a jumbled up grid, just a little bit in places, but oh my, does this make this a spicy race indeed. And this is going to be very fun, especially these opening stages when the weather is in effect. The rain is in effect. When will it dry up? Because we've been told it is expected to dry up pretty quickly. Just how quickly will that happen? How soon will we see someone take a gamble, come to pit lane and put on a set of slick tyres? This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. If this dries out quickly, it could be very chaotic indeed. So we're going to go straight to the formation lap, having just seen some footage of Jacques Villeneuve giving the fans something to cheer about with a demonstration of a car he drove in his debut Formula 1 season back in 1996, the FW18 Williams car, which of course had Damon Hill win the Formula 1 World Championship that particular year. One of the most dominant cars of the 1990s, as a lot of the Williams cars were. And well, Claire Williams, what she would give for a car that could even get on the podium like they used to so many times in the 1990s, let alone some points. But as Danny MG leads the field away for the formation lap, everyone of course on the same intermediate tyres, so there's no surprises there. But given some of the times we saw from Michael and Snitzel, do you think they may have, compromised a little bit on the dry setup to give themselves a little bit more traction in these wet conditions?
It's always a possibility, of course. You just never know what setups everybody is running. They could be running a bit extra wing to help in that early stages. It could be maybe they just made a few mistakes. Not everybody will be able to nail it round here every lap, unfortunately, but yeah, it's going to be a fun race to see how things go. The start is going to be interesting. It's not the longest run down to turn number 1, and in the wet conditions, it's going to be interesting to see if we have any incidents. I hope we don't, obviously. I don't want to see any carbon fibre through turn 1 and turn 2, or indeed through the entirety of the first lap, of course. But wet conditions always make that a much higher probability than it would do in the dry. And with a tight left into a tight or right-hand corner for turns 1 and 2, narrow piece of track, this could be either incredible or a bit of carnage on lap 1. I hope it's the first.
Yes, you mentioned the short run to turn 1. It is barely 160 metres from the start-finish line to turn 1. So this is certainly a track with a dangerous concertina effect, so hopefully everyone gets through safely. But we are about to get underway for 35 laps of this AOR F1 Canadian Grand Prix. Speed Barry and Danny MG on the front row. We got the 5 lights. Lights out and away we go. It's a good start from Danny MG, but I think Speed Barry's got a slightly better getaway, and they're going to go side by side in turn 1. Watch out for the 2 Williams just behind, who got a steady start, taking a safe line at all, and Speed Barry getting forced onto the grass, but I think he's going to muscle his way into the lead of this race. Danny MG dropping to second already, and I think that's Michael just behind in P3. And Snitzel has maintained position in P7 as they fly through Sector 1 for the first time. Danny MG just behind, trying to come back at him. Michael in P3, Varaz now in 4th. And the 2 Red Bulls are a little bit of a barrier for Tyrrell Snitzel currently. VSR Blizzard has moved up to 11th, as you can see on the screen, battling with Save Frosty. But Danny MG dropping a little bit of time to Speed Barry already. But that, Andy, was a pretty clean start as we enter the end of Sector 2 on lap 1.
Yeah, definitely a clean start. Everybody's got through well. I've just been keeping an eye on Blizzard on the start there. Up 3 places already. He just passed the McLaren, the Stay Frosty, around the outside into turn 4 and then getting the inside for turn 5. He's looking up the inside of Casper now into the hairpin, who's taking the long way round. Can he get the power down? The Alpha holds on, but great start there from Blizzard coming up through the field. But Speed Barry muscled his way, made sure he wasn't getting pushed off track through turn 1 and 2, and he's taking the lead of this this race away from the racing point. At the end of the first lap, it's Speed Barry, Danny MG, we've got a Williams there. That is Alvaro Ansler getting it all wrong at the chicane, and he's managed to hold on to P4, thankfully for him, but it's cost him a few tenths. He's now got the Red Bulls and that Roy and Nardi Perez coming.
Oh, and Speed Barry, sorry to cut you off, but Speed Barry making an absolute meal of turn 1, and Danny MG actually getting slightly compromised because of that mistake, and now Michael is going to try and go down the inside for P2, but doesn't manage to get the job done. Earlier we saw Tyrrell Schnitzel trying to make a move on Nardi Perez into the hairpin at turn 10, but the superior traction of Nardi Perez on the exit was absolutely excellent, and that allowed him to maintain position of P6. But look at this, Speed Barry had a great start, but he's really struggling now, and Danny MG is trying to close him and get a superb online shot here as Danny MG chases the Toro Rosso through the second chicane on this circuit, with Michael keeping a watching brief behind. Any slight mistake going a bit deep and you're going to lose so many places. Here we go then into turn 10, and Tyrrell Schnitzel going to go for a move once again on Nardi Perez. We'll find out shortly. And, oh, they're getting squeezed. Alvaro Asnot and Jim Roy going side by side through turn 10. I think Schnitzel once again tried to get past Nardi Perez but wasn't able to do it. Let's have a quick look of our Asnar, because he's now being overtaken. Yeah, here we go. It's going to be an overtake, and Jim Roy, the championship runner-up from season 16, moves up to P4, and Schnitzel behind, trying to get past Nardi Perez side by side, and he's actually got the move done. A brilliant move round the outside through the final chicane and avoiding the world champions. That was two superb moves we've just seen there, Andy.
That was very nice indeed from Schnitzel, especially into the chicane. Left it late in the brakes. He came out late, but it was clean and it was fair, and that was beautifully done. And at the same time, Alvaro Anza ran wide at the chicane again, took to the off part of the circuit, basically straight lined it almost. And obviously, when you're a driver, you will catch that in your eyesight as well. When you're trying to pull off an overtaking move and someone's running wide ahead, you don't know where they're going to come back on. So that was a really, really good move indeed. Speed Barry seems to have just managed to get the tyres to where he wants them just now. He's pulling away. Danny MG now a second behind, and he just drifted his way out of turn number 5 turn number 7 as well, onto the second straight towards 8 and 9. So maybe Barry just couldn't quite get the tyres up to temperature in that opening laps, as Lee Finlay picks up the first of what I believe will be many penalties during this race. Michael, though, trying to do everything he can to get by the Spaniard. He's got a Red Bull behind. He's got his teammate in there. Schnitzel's not far off, and Blizzard has just got past on Frosty, Frosty and Blizzard having a fight, because Blizzard was ahead in the McLaren, and now the McLaren's got a much better run out of hairpin and got that move done. So Blizzard, after a good start, has just lost one of those places he gained. And Nardi Perez into pit lane already. I'm going to follow the Red Bull, see if there's any damage there, because that's an early pit stop, and especially for another set of intermediates. No wing change, that's a weird one.
Yeah, in the pit lane for some reason, no idea why. But we'll go straight back to the action. Alvaro Asnar struggling to keep up Jim Roy. He's got Tyrrell Schnitzel right behind him. Big pressure for the Williams driver, but if he can do a job on Tyrrell Schnitzel, at least for a few laps, that's going to certainly help Michael get a bit further up the road. But he's kind of trapped behind Danny MG at the moment, and he's got Jim Roy. So the two championship rivals from season 16 nose to tail in P3 and P4 at the moment. Alvaro Asnar, well, he's got Schnitzel right behind him. Schnitzel has been really getting on the back of him, trying to force a mistake. We've seen Alvaro Asnar make several mistakes in the final chicane, and I think he cut another corner there. Surely it will only be a matter of time. He keeps making mistakes like this. Alvaro Asnar getting a penalty. Is Schnitzel going to go for a move with the hairpin? Oh, he's going to go for a late lunge. Yes, he is. He's going to go for a late lunge, and he's going to get the move done. That was superbly done by Schnitzel, and that's another excellent overtake, and he is on a charge.
Another good overtake indeed, but fair play to Alvaro for giving him the space as well, recognising it was coming rather than turning into the corner. He could quite easily have done that, and that would have compromised both their races. He knows there's a long way to go in this, and he decided to take it easy. There is that penalty for Alvaro, so he's the fourth driver already to pick up a penalty. Blizzard's just picked up his second, so before long he's going to probably end up in Kota at this rate with the amount of penalties he's got. Casper's just got past on Nicholas Patil before turn 1, so they're still chopping and changing through the field. But that is a very strange pit stop from Nardi Perez. There was no change on my screen to that front wing. It was a brand new set of intermediate tyres. The only thing I can think of is maybe he had a puncture, maybe he had some contact and it's punctured the tyre. That is the only thing I could think of, is to pit in that early in these conditions.
Yes, I assume graphically we just didn't see the wing change, because I don't see any other reason he would have come in so early. It's still raining, it's definitely not dry conditions yet. Yellow's in sector 2. I think Alex has had an incident somewhere. Yeah, Alex has had a moment somewhere. I think, has he got any damage to his wing? But either way, he is dropping all the way down to P16, so not good news for the other Mercedes, which means once again all of the efforts for getting points in the constructors will fall to Tyrrell Schnitzel. You just get the sense that if Tyrrell Schnitzel had a couple of bad races, Williams would completely run away with this team championship.
Yeah, just a little bit indeed. Just keeping an eye on Alex there. He does have wing damage to the left-hand side of his end fence. Is completely missing, so something's gone wrong there going through turns 6 and 7, and that's obviously going to probably see him coming into pit lane to get that repaired, because especially in these conditions, very, very tricky. Just noticing in the chat there from Z3 saying there's some technical issues with Blizzard's wheel, so he's having his own issues outside of the race with his wheel, which means that that's possibly why he's maybe picked up those 2 early 3-second penalties. But it gives us another example of just how much things can go wrong. Remember, a couple of races ago, Michael said he had issues with his brake pedal. I believe it was Catalunya a couple of races back. So these things, it's not just a case of the technical issues you get with the car in the actual race itself. Your own equipment can fail you as well, and it seems that Blizzard, despite his good start, still in 11th, is having these few problems at his own end as well.
Yeah. And Alvaro Asnot still in P6 for the time being, but Tyrrell Schnitzel, who overtook Alvaro Asnot earlier, is now trying to chase down the season 16 runner-up Jim Roy, but not quite close enough for another lunge at the hairpin. But it goes very deep actually, so I think Roy will have the much better traction out of the corner. Speed Barry just gradually eking out an advantage, 1.5 seconds between Danny MG, but Danny MG not exactly troubled by Michael so far. In terms of the weather, it looks like the rain has stopped. Yes, the rain has stopped, so we are starting to see a little bit of a dry line forming. Oh, a 3-second penalty for Danny MG, and as we have seen so many times at this track in the past, with the field usually being so tight here, any penalty and you're going to fall down so many places, so that is bad news. We're only on lap 7 as well. It's just so important. This is why Michael, in my view, is someone you have to favour this race, because he very rarely gets time penalties.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 drivers in pit lane as well are Lee Finley and Alex. Alex obviously changing
dry
his
tyres,
wing, and there's a change in dry tyres for the Toro Rosso, so that's an interesting one indeed. So they've decided, no, we're getting on these early, we're going to take advantage of this. So medium tyres for both of them, wing changes as well for both of them, so they've just dragged it out to the exact moment they feel this is right. Expect pit lane to get very busy very, very quickly.
We'll have to keep an eye on the interval for their time. So at the moment, Lee Finley's 12.3 seconds behind Jim Nardi-Perez. So if that gap suddenly starts to plummet, then that's a sign it may be ready for tries. But here comes Tyrrell Schnitzel. He's going to go for another move of the hairpin, just as he did Alvaro Asnar. Roy not offering much of a defence. I think he knew the game was up, because that was such a superb run out of that second chicane. He was right on him even before they got there. The Tyrrell Schnitzel moves up to P4. Up next is Chief Championship rival Williams Michael. So we could see a great battle between them, but now it's all about judging when to pit. And here they come. They're all coming in. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is going to be pandemonium in the pit lane. And I tell you what, Schnitzel being in the first slot, he could be badly held up here, because he's right at the front of the pit lane. He has been held quite a bit. He's still being held, and finally he gets out. Where on earth is Michael going to be in all this mess? Michael, did he get out ahead of Schnitzel? He may well have done, and in fact, yeah, Roy's actually got out ahead of Schnitzel again, because Schnitzel was held up so much. So all that overtaking, he's going to have to do it all over again. But that was absolute chaos. I'm not sure if Lee Finley gained anything from that, because he and Alex had to have wing changes, so I don't think they would have got much of an undercut. But VSR Wayne is still out there on inters. Oh my goodness, VSR Wayne is still out there on inters. That is a big error from the Ferrari driver, and he's going to get absolutely swamped here. But he could play an effect here, because actually in all of this, Andy, Speed Barry's got quite a gap to the other cars.
Definitely so. Look at Michael, though. He's got a great run coming out of turn number 7 here, heading up towards turn number 8 under the bridge, and he's through before the braking zone. So much better traction on the exit from the Williams, and he's easily got past there on the racing point. But DRS is now enabled as well. Race control have enabled it just before they came into pit lane, and that means that Danny is going to have the chance to try and get the move back. There's a McLaren there going up the inside. That's Daniel Alves on Wayne on his intermediates, but Speed Barry being the first in pit lane. He didn't get held up with the Toro Rosso team being further down the pit lane, and he's got a nearly 3-second gap. But now he's got a charging Michael behind who knows that Schnitzel is a few places down the field at the moment, and that could play into his hands. Speed Barry with the fastest lap, obviously no surprises there with 16.1. Schnitzel 16.0, expect that to change quickly. Wayne has made his way into the pit lane, and I'm expecting yet Nardi Perez, the only other driver on intermediates, in as well. Nicholas Mateo and Blizzard have gone for hard compound tyres as well, so that's an interesting one, as has Danny. So that's maybe why Michael got the traction as well. Danny is actually in the hard compound, trying to take it to the end of the race rather than maybe stopping the game. Be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. Danny MG is indeed on the hard, so differing strategies between Racing Point and Red Bull, but I think it's going to cost him in the short term, because here comes Jim Roy, and he's going to try and go around the outside at the second chicane. Oh, slight contact between the two, and that's going to compromise both, and TR Schnitzel will say thank you very much, picks up the P4 easily there. Danny MG doing extremely well not to spin the car for that contact. Lock of the tyres from Jim Roy, and Tyrrell Schnitzel is now right on him, and he's outside of DRS range, so Roy's not going to have any DRS assistance, so I think Schnitzel may once again get past the Red Bull. He's getting closer and closer. Can he get ahead and get onto the podium position for the first time in this race? He started in P7. Schnitzel, Roy covering off as he's perfectly entitled to do. Danny Alves picks up a 3-second penalty. I think we're going to see more and more now as the speed goes up, and Schnitzel will still not get ahead of the Red Bull, as the fastest lap times will continue to tumble as we go. It's a 2.8 second gap between the top two currently. Tyrrell Schnitzel, he'll be desperate to get ahead of this Red Bull as quickly as possible, because Roy has dropped 2 seconds to Michael already doing all this defending, so he's got to get ahead of him as soon as possible. Is Alves going to go for a move on the Racing Point? No, he does not. So Tyrrell Schnitzel gets a superb exit out of the end of sector 1. Trying to get my words out, but there's so much going on. Tyrrell Schnitzel needs to get a good exit out of the second chicane once again, as he did previously when he overtook them. And I'm trying to get better camera views because I'm not getting them at the moment. Can Tyrrell Schnitzel dive down the inside? Is he going to go for it again? No, not this time. So he's going to have to settle for this. So Andy's going to try and build up the speed to get a DRS overtake as Daniel Alves moves up to P5.
Yeah, Daniel just sticking it up the inside there into the hairpin, getting the move done on the Racing Point of Daniel Alves. Schnitzel therefore with DRS assistance gets the move done, and he's now onto the podium and ahead of Jim Roy. His next target is obviously his championship rival Michael, just up the road in second place, 2.5 seconds down, but he needs to watch out for that Red Bull. Roy will try and fight back. Michael is still 2.8 seconds down on Speed Barry, so he's doing a pretty good job at the moment as the Toro Rosso driver, keeping that gap steady, despite the fact he's got one of the championship protagonists in behind him. Just seen a lovely little battle down the field between Tactician and Lee Finlay, and they're side by side into turn 1 again, and Lee Finlay finally a lap later gets the move done, but he's on 9 seconds worth of penalties already. That's not going to help him later on the race, as Alvaro Anzar just picks up another as well.
Yes, well, it's going slightly wrong for Alvaro Anzar. 6 seconds of penalties at least, but it's been that way since the beginning of the race. In the wet, he was straight lining the final chicane, and if you do that a few times, you're not going to do much good. Race control do not take too kindly to that. So it's now a 3-second gap. Speed Barry's race pace is absolutely incredible at the moment, and he'll be hoping that Michael and Tyrrell Schnitzel have a big ding-dong for P2, and that will allow him to eke out further of a gap. Now, tyre wear is not particularly an issue at this track, so it's not out of the possibility that these mediums could go all the way to the end of the race, although a bit of tyre management may be required towards the closing laps, as they do wear off a little bit. Jim Roy was in DRS range, but wasn't able to close on Tyrrell Schnitzel, but both of these drivers are beginning to close the gap to Michael. The gap was around 2.5 seconds when Tyrrell Schnitzel overtook Jim Roy, but now it's about just over 2 seconds, so it's about half a second in the last lap and a half that these two have taken out Michael, so we could get a real three-way fight here between 3 of the leading lights of this division, and Jim Roy at the moment on for his best result of the season.
Yeah, he's on for a cracker at the moment, but he's locked up a few times into that hairpin, and that's not going to help his tyre wear or anything at all, as multiple penalties through there as I'm watching the battle down the field, which is between Lee Finlay, Tactician, Alex and Wayne. That's 12th, 13th, 14th and 15th. It's not even over a championship point at the moment, but these guys are pretty much nose to tail and pushing it like anything they can to get up through the field. So we've got battles everywhere, as we always do here in AOR in the the top tier, and Wayne's got a nice little run by the looks of it, but he's just got sideways on the exit, kept it out of the wall, so he's going to carry on. Roy is sticking with your championship leader at the moment, still within DRS range. Daniel Alves just dropped off a little bit, and Danny is obviously trying to keep those hard tyres in the temperature window. With the fact that it is cooler with these overcast conditions, he's going to try and get them to the end, you would imagine. It's going to be a long shot for that one though, the way we've been told. Blizzard is side by side with Nicholas Matteo. He's going to go the outside through turn 1, inside for turn 2, and he's got that move done, and that looked like a pretty nice move indeed from the Renault driver, especially if he is still having any of those wheel issues. He's up in 8th place.
Yeah, well, I think Blizzard is, he was complaining on the radio about the wheel issues, but they obviously did a restart procedure on that particular wheel, and that has now got that all resolved, and he's now up to P8 with that nice move on Nicholas Matteo. It's a little bit rough around the edges, but perfectly fair. It's LOR2 looking to score points for Ferrari once again as they bid to get off the bottom of the championship standings, which they've been since the opening round of the season. Nicholas Matteo not getting a particularly good exit, seems to be struggling a little bit in this current phase of the race on those hards. The hards do take a while to get going, and they're not a particularly good race tyre. And we talked about it earlier, Andy, the hards were probably a tyre we didn't really want to use if possible, because their performance isn't particularly encouraging, at least for quite a few laps.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, in terms of tyre differences, you're about 0.4 of a second between the soft and the medium. There's a 1.3 difference between the hard and the soft compound tyres, and that means it's about nearly a second between the mediums and the hard. So those on the hard compound tyres, that's Danny MG, Blizzard, and Nicholas Matteo. They're the only 3 out there on the white compound tyre. It will be a struggle, especially in these overcast conditions, to keep those tyres up to temperature. Tactician and Lee Finlay side by side coming through turn 2, and the Finn and the Alpha has got the move done on the Scotsman and the Toro Rosso and back into 12th position. That battle could go on for the rest of this race between these 4, so we'll keep an eye on that as we're going along. And R2 trying what you can to get Nicholas Matteo, and Frosty's right in the back of him as well. Plenty going on through the field as always.
Yeah, so there's some brilliant battles going on in the midfield. And LR2 round the outside at the second chicane. Absolutely brilliant move. I'm glad we got that. Save Frosty getting past Nicholas Matteo or Willie. Nicholas Matteo will have the inside for the hairpin. And it's going to be slight contact between the Haas and the Ferrari. But that was a ballsy move from LR2. I don't know where that came from. It needed quite a bit of compliance from Nicholas Matteo, and I think even Nicholas Matteo was surprised by it. Save Frosty going to try and come back. The gap between P2 and P3 is closing down. We are going to keep an eye on that. Nicholas Matteo back in front of the Ferrari, but he's going to get all out of shape through the final chicane, so they could even go 3 wide. There's another huge battle going on behind, but we're not going to have to keep an eye on this one. This is a battle for P9, 10 and 11. The final championship points all up for grabs here. But
yeah, definitely so.
But some brilliant action here, but what it looks like, Andy, in terms of the strategy, I don't think any of these drivers will be looking to stop again, particularly the medium runners.
Certainly those in the hard won't. The mediums will try and go to the end, but they're saying it'll be about 17 laps they can do. They've already done 7. Another 10 would take you to 25 laps. You still got 10 to go. It's going to be a stretch. We might see if someone pushes it. We might see some punctures in this race come the end. R2 has just repeated his move nearly and then got jumped by Frosty. Tried to go around the outside again, and now he's lost that position. That was a lovely move last lap, by the way, on Nicholas Matteo by the Ferrari. It was fantastic stuff. And then behind Alex, oh no, he's completely missed his braking. Nearly went into the side of Tactician, and he's took Casper with him there, but he's managed to avoid colliding with someone. He completely missed it there. Nearly went into Tactician's Alpha, coming into the hairpin, and it's cost him a bit of time. He's now got Casper and Wayne all over the back of him, and Casper's going to try and go around the outside into the finish game, and he's got the move done. That was nicely done, and not the first time we've seen Casper with a good overtake this year.
Yeah, and it's this group of 7 cars are putting on quite a show as we wait for Tiras Diepsel to eke that gap into Michael, so we will catch up that battle. There's not really any battles going on in the top 8, although Alvaro Asnar's close onto the back of Danny MG, so I'm going to have a quick look at that actually. Yeah, Alvaro Asnar, an easy DRS overtake, so we'll go straight back to these crazy battles in the midfield. Nicholas Matteo on these hard tyres is defending for his everything he's worth, but surely something's going to have to give between these 3 cars, and this could soon become a 7 car. But oh, contact between the McLaren, and he's gone way off the road. He's gone the right side of the bollard, but gets a 3-second time penalty for taking too much speed and gaining an advantage So he's down to P11. But yeah, slight contact between the Haas. And here comes Lee Finley with an almighty dive bomb. And he's going to go up to P11. This reminds me of Baku, the crazy midfield action here. R2 trying to get past the Haas up ahead. And Lee Finley trying to get past the McLaren. Don't know if Say Frosty got any damage at that. And two I was going to say Saubers. Alfa Romeo's going side by side behind. There's 3 battles. Take a pick which one you want to watch. This is incredible stuff, Andy.
Oh, absolutely brilliant in the midfield. As always, Alex has came into pit lane. Lee Finley diving from a mile back. How he didn't make contact is unbelievable. But he got that move done on Frosty. He's picked up that time penalty, having gone wide after that contact into turn 8 and 9. Thankfully, he was able to carry on though at the moment. But these guys are putting on a hell of a show. Lee is going to drop through the field like a stone though at the end of the race, because that's 12 seconds worth of penalties.
Oh, huge dive by Lee Finley. Is that going to work out? No, that's going to compromise both of them. Oh, contact. Oh my goodness. Damage there for sure for the McLaren, and Casper is going to gain probably 4 places in one corner there. Up to P10 he goes. Good moment for the Alfa Romeos. Lee Finley, that was a lick it and stamp it moment, but unfortunately for him, the post office was shut because he's now dropped back down to P12 and didn't really gain anything. Nicholas Matteo, the big loser there. And look at that VSL Wayne trying to get down the inside of Lee Finley right there. They're going to go side by side into the DRS zone, so let's go back down to them. And Snitzel now 1.3 seconds behind Michael. We are keeping an eye on that one because that's going to be hotting up soon. But this midfield action has been an excellent filler to the sandwich of this race at this particular time, as VSL Wayne has to settle not to go for a move into the final chicane, and Nicholas Mateo has got damage, and I think Nardi Perez, well, he had a really good qualifying session, but he is coming into the pits and it's for wing damage, and Say Frosty as well, so that is bad news for him. So that's kind of disturbed that midfield battle. It's kind of spread it out a little bit again, but my goodness, that was entertainment, even for some of the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it was definitely entertaining. I think Lee, I know Lee, I've spoke to Lee a few times. He's a nice guy, he's a good driver, but I think he was just a bit overzealous there in his braking. Not for the first time, he done it down to the hairpin, got away with it, tried it again into turn number 6, and it didn't pay off this time around. I think he might even have some damage. He's just caused Wayne to take the long way round the chicane there at turns 8 and 9. But all of that happened needing Nicholas Matteo, Nardi Perez and Frosty to go into pit lane and change their tyres, and that was all down to that late braking move by the Toro Rosso, and for the second week in a row he could end up in the stewards as well. Danny NG's just came into pit lane
wing
to
change.
replace his hard compound and a wing change as well, and Speed Barry's got a 3-second penalty during all of that action. So
yeah, and Michael has closed the gap. So we're going to finally switch our attention to a battle for the lead, because we haven't seen much of them because well, there's been so much going on and the gaps have been as they are. But here we go. Michael now giving the chase. Speed Barre has dropped off the pace a little bit. Must have made a mistake somewhere because he did have that gap. But suddenly, Michael right on the back of him, the Season 16 champion. And right behind him, Andy, is the reigning and defending Season 17 champion. This is about to come to the boil as we about to start lap 20 of this AOR Canadian Grand Prix.
Here we go, Michael down the back straight, DRS, he's got the inside line. Speed Barry's diving for pit lane instead, so he's dived out of it, deciding he's going to make that second stop. He's going to do it now, get onto the medium tyres again. That puts Michael in the lead, Schnitzel in second, and Roy's sticking with that Mercedes as well. He's never dropped out of DRS range, he just can't get quite close enough to make a move, and Daniel Alves into pit lane as well. There is penalties galore, will come to him towards the end of the race, but Michael now into the lead. Can he repeat what he did the last time we visited Canada and take the win?
Yeah, it was a long pit stop for Speed Barrier. I don't know if he made a mistake and lost that gap. Maybe he clumped a barrier somewhere, because he seemed to be sitting in the pit lane a long time. So I think he might have had some damage, but we will find out. But yeah, he's ended up even behind Alvaro Aznar, but so that's the second pit stop. So if he hasn't pitted, Andy, for damage, then surely these medium runners are not going to the end of this race.
No, and I mean, as I said earlier, it would be a bit of a surprise to see them go to the end, because by the time they get to the end of the race, they'll have done about 27 laps, which is about 10 laps more than what the predictions would be for the medium compound tyre. So I would expect a lot of them to come in. I think Barry's just decided, I'm going to come early.
Yeah. Oh, and my goodness, Jim Roy, he got that all wrong. 5-second penalty, and that will eliminate him from the reckoning for the race win, surely. as soon as he locked the tyres, he was in trouble. I knew he was in trouble, and he picks up the time penalty. Speed Barry just on the back straight. Is he going to get out ahead of Schnitzel and Michael? They're just exiting the pit lane now. I'm not sure. I think Speed Barry must have had damage because he's nowhere near. So here we go then. Michael is going to come out. Wow, Asnot just up ahead. Tira Schnitzel right behind him. Where is Speed Barry? There is Speed Barry, and he's behind all of them. So whatever happened to him earlier on, he must have had to make a wing chain because he would not have ended up behind these guys otherwise.
Oh, what's going on here? There's nearly three wide coming out of the chicane there, sorry. Wayne was in the middle of a McLaren and Alfa Romeo sandwich there between Daniel Alves and Tactician. I don't know what happened. I picked it up late. You got the Toro, the racing point of Danny trying to go around the outside and stealing that place as well. But yeah, something happened there out the final chicane, and they were three wide at one point. I think Wayne maybe made a mistake into the chicane and got split either side by the McLaren and the Alfa as he went past. But plenty going on. Danny's picked up another penalty in there, so he's now at 9 seconds as Danny MG, as he just puts a move right now on to Tactician under DRS towards turns 8 and 9. And there's penalties, so many penalties. I don't know if I've been able to keep up with them all, so we might need to wait to the end of the race, but we'll soon see.
Well, the big story is now the battle for the lead, and surprise, surprise, despite the fact they didn't even get on the front row for one of them for the first time this season, the battle for the Canadian Grand Prix has now shifted to the top two in the championship. Michael, the season 16 champion, with Tyrrell Schnitzel, the defending champion and championship leader, right behind him. We've seen plenty of midfield action, but now it's a true battle for the lead between undoubtedly the league's best two drivers at the moment.
Yeah, definitely so, and they're going to fight all the way to the flag, you would imagine, as well. Just half a second in it just now. I'm just noticing from the chat, Speed Barry did have wing damage. You were right in your thoughts there, Mark. He broke his end plate against the wall of champions also a few laps prior, and that's what cost him the times. He was 3 seconds clear at one point. That gap really dropped down, so that's why he's dropped down the field, due to having to change the front wing in that pit stop. So thank you very much to the person in the chat for letting us know that one.
Yeah, well, Speed Barry must be so frustrated. He had this race in complete control, really, and he made that one mistake, and it's cost him so much time in the pit lane. But he is still on for a podium, especially with Jim Roy's 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So all is not lost. He could still be on for a third podium this season, which would still be a decent return. But he will probably be thinking, well, it could have been a race win if I had not made that mistake. But there's still plenty of laps to go here. Lap 23 then at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And well, we've seen some... This race, believe it or not, if you've just joined us, started in wet conditions, be it the intermediate tyres, but that has transitioned to glorious sunshine here above Montreal. And
Nicholas Mateo going slowly. Nicholas Mateo going very slowly there, sorry, just coming out of the hairpin. That's what the yellow flag was. Didn't see what happened. I only jumped to it as I seen the yellow flag, but he was going very slowly. He's back up to speed. I don't think he's got any damage, but he is heading for pit lane. And then I've got to imagine that's another race ruined for Nicholas Mateo, and he retires from the session in pit lane. So another DNF for the Haas driver. Unfortunately, it's not the first time this season that he's retired, either due to pit lane or due to damage. And he is out of the race. The first DNF is Nicholas Mateo.
Yes, well, we're over halfway through the race, and that's our first retirement, which, given the action we've seen, may be seen as some kind of miracle. But there's a lot of midfield action still going on, but we are not taking our eyes off this battle for the lead for the second. And there's going to be a battle for third as well, because Speed Barry is now within DRS range of Williams Jim Roy, and of course has the knowledge that Jim Roy has more time penalties than him, so Speed Barry can go on full attack and take some risks to get onto the podium for the third time this season. So as it stands, we've had 5 different drivers on the podium, but we're not going to get any different drivers on the podium as it stands, because Speed Barry, Michael and Schnitzel, of course, have visited the podium multiple times this season. But Michael doing a decent job of defending the position from Schnitzel. It seems to have pretty decent straight line speed. May have put a little bit less wing on after the dry tyres were deployed earlier on in the race. But Schnitzel, very wily old fox at this. He has won more races than any other driver on the grid since season 17. It's just an incredible consistency that he's been showing ever since season 17 started, Andy.
Yeah, definitely so. It's been incredible. Nardi Perez has just retired from the race as well. I think he's done that also in pit lane, and just caught a bit in our little chat that we have when Nicholas Mateo was apologising to Nardi, so I think that's why the issue was there was contact between them, has dropped him out of the race. I think Speedbarry's still got a fantastic chance of doing something in this race, but he needs to get by Roy as quickly as possible. He's shown he's got good pace, he's got a 3-second time penalty as well, which is not ideal, and but I still think he's on for a really good result here, and if he can get by Roy quick enough and pull away and get out of DRS, he might catch up to Schnitzel and Michael, because these two are going to start fighting before very much longer.
Absolutely, and Schnitzel, well, he is saving battery for a full attack, and yeah, Michael only has 38%, and a full battery available to Schnitzel, so this is kind of reminiscent of what we saw at Spain, where Schnitzel was just biding his time and recharging the battery. Then when he went on a full attack, and when he took the lead, no one could live with him, and this is a similar story. Michael's got to really dig deep into his locker as a Williams eSports driver to try and hold the reigning champion behind him. But here we go then, full attack for Schnitzel. I think he's been waiting for this moment. He's going to try and go for a move to the inside. Slight move from Michael to try and box him off, and it seems to work for the time being, but Schnitzel's going to continue his assault as we head on to lap 26. This race is absolutely flying by, but Michael just had really good straight line speed, and Schnitzel had to abandon the attempt in the end.
Yeah, couldn't quite get the move done there, unfortunately. You might have heard me making a bit of an explanation there. I jumped down the field and I seen Frosty stopped in the middle of turn 2 just as Wayne was coming out of pit lane, so I don't know if he spun and rejoined just at the wrong time, but yeah, that was an interesting one indeed. But Schnitzel's got all the battery there, he's still got 100%, he's turning it up now. Michael's going to have to harvest some energy at some point. He's down to 20% in that battery. Barry right onto the back of Roy as well. Alvaro Ansar's just got past Blizzard, who is still going round on those hard compound tyres. Lee Finley's going to end up in, never mind in Quebec, he's going to end up in blooming Washington at this rate. He's got 15 seconds worth of time penalties now, and he's just came into pit lane for another pit stop and another wing change as well, so it's gone from bad to worse for the Toro Rosso. His teammate's doing a great job at the moment. Can he get on the podium? Schnitzel will right behind one more time as he comes through the final chicane onto the start and finish straight. The ERS management, the battery gets turned up. Can he do anything? But he's not quite close enough. Does he fancy a dive? It's not the greatest braking zone into turn 1. You need to be side by side beforehand. He's going to have to follow a little bit longer as Daniel Alves gets by on Blizzard for P5. P6, sorry.
Yes, and we just heard some team radio, and you know the Williams team are telling Michael that he's got to start harvesting battery because he is being, proverbially speaking, bled to death in battery trying to hold off Schnitzel. Schnitzel is playing this perfectly from a strategic point of view. He is setting this up for an easy overtake. He does not want to take any risks, and that may be half the reason why he's got the championship lead he's got. If he were to win this race, he would make his championship gap over 50 points. He'd have over 2 wins in hand. Now, in terms of the fastest lap of the race at the moment, the bonus point is going to go to someone in the top 10, a 109.977 for Speed Bari. So will we finally get a bonus point awarded inside the top 10? We have not had that at the previous 6 rounds. And as I say that, literally as I say that, VSR Wayne sets the fastest lap of the race. So it looks like, Andy, probably not. But Schnitzel continues his relentless pursuit of Michael, and I think he may be happy to let this wait to the final few laps.
It is quite possible he might do, but then again he's getting closer and closer and closer every single time we look at it, and you just think before long a good exit out of one of the corners where you get DRS afterwards and he might make the move. Just on that fact, Schnitzel did pick up the bonus point in Monaco for the fastest lap of the race. It was so we have actually had it rewarded already, but it was only just last round in Monaco.
You are absolutely correct. He did get the Grand Slam of pole position, fastest lap and the race victory, so yes, apologies for forgetting that 2 weeks ago. Well, busy life and all that, but TRL Schnitzel trying to chase down, and Michael went slightly deep in that corner. Oh, a little twitch of oversteer from the rear, and another penalty for Roy, and that's going to compound his woes. Here comes Schnitzel. He's going to go to the outside. Michael forced to defend, and Schnitzel's had to go very deep actually just to make the corner because Michael's covering the inside, but he is moving Michael around, forcing him to take different lines, and that's just going to set him up now for the DRS straight. There's going to be a move here yet. Schnitzel peels out to the inside and takes the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix. He's been setting that move up lap after lap, and finally he gets ahead, but can Michael respond in any shape or form?
Well, he's going to have to do something. He's not got a lot of battery left, so he needs to try and use the DRS. He needs to do what Schnitzel just did, basically. Sit in the DRS, sit in the slipstream, save the battery up, and just then go on the attack. But he needs to be able to stay close enough. Schnitzel now is going to do, as someone's just mentioned in the chat, it's Schnitzel time, basically. Forget hammer time. This is the other version of it. This is our version, and he's going to try and do what he done in Catalonia and disappear off into the distance. He's got a good battery charge to do it. Michael needs to gain that battery back up, and he's not using DRS down that second DRS straight. That's very strange indeed. He had it available.
Oh, time penalty.
He's picked up a penalty as well.
Oh dear, and that may be the fatal moment of this race. He may not have a prayer of coming back at Schnitzel, who seeks a 6th win in 7 races. Michael, the only other driver to win in this division at round 3 of the Chinese Grand Prix. And Speed Barry, surprisingly, still not able to get past Jim Roy, but Jim Roy's actually beginning to close the gap to Michael. It's now just over 2 seconds, but Schnitzel, I mean, what can you say? P7, no problem. Made some great overtakes in the wet early on to get past the likes of Jim Roy and Abou Asnar, and now he's on the course with just 6 laps to go, including this one, of winning yet again in the top tier of AOR on PS4.
Yeah, absolutely, and just to show you as well, he's already a second clear as Danny Engries just passed Blizzard before the final chicane. And if my maths is right, Schnitzel is the only driver that doesn't have a penalty in this race. Everybody else has at least one. I'm going to go and check that, but if I've got this right, he is the only driver with no penalties, and that just shows you what he's been doing. He's been keeping it clean, keeping it tidy, and yeah, he's now obviously out of DRS range, and with that penalty for Michael, as you say, that could be the crucial moment with just 5 laps to go.
Yes, there's always a temptation to push it a little bit too hard when you get overtaken by a rival, and that's what happened. I think Michael was desperately trying to keep within that second, and he picked up, a 3-second time penalty. Sometimes it's better to lose a couple of tenths than lose 3 seconds in terms of time. Yes, Owain, well, he must be closing in on a disqualification the way he's picking up these time penalties. So our focus in this race now goes to the battle for the podium, because Speed Barry, I believe, does have a 3-second time penalty, as does Michael, but Jim Roy has more penalties than Speed Barry, so Speed Barry doesn't necessarily have to overtake on track, and Stay Frosty becomes our 3rd retirement of the race. A nightmare race for Stay Frosty once again. That's his 3rd retirement of the season. He had such a solid start to the season with 5th, 8th and 6th respectively from the opening 3 rounds, but he's had now 3 retirements from the last 4 races, so it's all going wrong for him. So Abou Asnar, a solid P5 at the moment on his full-time debut this season. Then Daniel Alves, Danny MG, VSR Blizzard, Casper and Alex making up the top 10. So Alex is on for points here today for the first time since the opening round of the season, when he got 8th place at Australia. He hasn't scored a single point since then. So Schnitzel continuing to pull away, 1.6, and another lock of the tyres from Jim Roy. He has been making those tyres scream today, and he's been locking up a few too many times.
Yeah, definitely into that turn 10 chicane. I was a little bit wrong. Schnitzel actually does have a 3-second time penalty as well, so they're equal between him and Michael. And Schnitzel is on 2 additional warnings, so he does need to be careful towards the end laps of this race. Michael still might get something out of this. Barry has got his best chance now, is obviously going to be, he can stay there, he's going to end up in the podium. Roy's got a 3-second time penalty plus a 5-second for speeding in pit lane as well. So if he can just stay there at the moment, at least on track, he will still finish in 3rd. But we're drivers, obviously. You want to do it on track, you don't want to wait for penalties. The 2 at the front need to be careful. They are on warnings, they could be close to another one, and that could still change this in the final laps. It seems to have just calmed down a little bit now. Most of the cars have got a couple of seconds gap. The closest is Barry to the back of that Red Bull, so the 2 sister teams, basically Red Bull and Toro Rosso, chasing each other, and Barry looking to see if he can get himself another haul of points, which could put him ahead of Casper and up him to what is 3rd place in the championship, with Truesdale having dropped out now, and could even put him ahead of his points total before long as well.
Yes, I believe as it stands, Speed Barry would go into 3rd in the championship if he carries on this, especially if he gets that podium, which looks likely. It obviously doesn't pick up any more time. Oh, he just cut the final chicane though, and I think he might have got a warning there, because that was all 4 wheels by the looks of it. So 1.6 second gap. So Tiras Schnitzel knows, so if he makes any more mistakes, this could put Michael back into play. It could be a repeat of season 16 when Michael did not win on track, but won because he had less time penalties than the competition. But Speed Barry hasn't been able to get past Jim Roy. Jim Roy's put on a pretty stout defence of his third position on track at least. And this is the only battle within DRS range on track as Alvaro Aznar picks up another time penalty. So Daniel Alves, well, Daniel Alves, we have to mention him. He has not scored a single point in any of the first 6 races. He's had so many near misses where he's performed really well, but then had an incident or something like that. But he is on course for a superb 6th place, and maybe better than that if he's got less penalties than Alvaro Aznar. So really good effort from the McLaren driver. And that was a Toro Rosso going really deep into the hairpin to get out of the way. And I think, yeah, that was Lee Finley getting out of the way. So would you believe it? We're about to start the penultimate lap. And we had a delayed lobby issues earlier on, which caused, a delay to the start of the session. But once this race got going, we've seen some excellent action today. But the gap's now just dropped to 1.2 seconds between the top 2. So we are sort of in the window where these medium tyres are beginning to drop off. So Michael is almost within DRS range again, but he still doesn't have much battery. So that's still going to be a big issue for him. But I think Schnitzel may just be, he's got the car turned down. So I think he's just trying to, not take any risks at this point. I think he can comfortably stay ahead on track. He knows he can't afford to get any more time penalties.
No, definitely not. This last lap and a half is going to be very interesting because Schnitzel does have more warnings after that penalty than Michael does, so he is very close. He's on the cusp, and it's very easy to do around here. You mentioned Daniel Alves, no points so far, and he's got 1 3-second time penalty. Alvaro Aznar's on about 12, so the McLaren is going to jump the Williams into 5th place at the moment if it stays as it is. Can Speed Barry get the move done to actually make the pass for the podium on track on Jim Roy? Impressive showing from Jim Roy tonight. Even though we've seen a good wee bit of him. Here goes Barry looking to the inside. No, he backs out of that one. I've been quite impressed with Roy's performance tonight. He's been very good, very defensive driving as well, and he's been pretty quick. He's stuck with the front 2 as well. He's not been too far off the pace. It's just a shame that the speeding penalty and the 3 seconds are going to cost him a possible podium here, because he would have definitely deserved it based on his drive he's had tonight as we go into the final lap of the race.
Yep, Tyrrell Schnitzel looking as Daniel Alves picks up time. Oh, that could cost him P6. I'm not sure on Damien G's penalty situation. But lives with some 26 laps on those hards. So he made the one-stop strategy work, and he's going to get a good solid haul of points. So that's worked out really well for Blizzard. So here we go then. Through the second chicane for the penultimate time. Turns 8 and 9, then we'll head down to turn 10 at the hairpin. Can Michael get even into DRS range for one last attack, which may be a forlorn hope? Schnitzel just has to navigate the chicane one more time, and he will be the winner of this Canadian Grand Prix. But he knows that if he makes a critical mistake here, Michael is going to win this race. They have the same amount of time penalties. Schnitzel then heading for the final chicane for the last time on lap 35. Gets through and he navigates it, avoids the world champions. Tyrrell Schnitzel is going to take the checkered flag and the Canadian Grand Prix victory just ahead of Michael. Speed Barry will take the final podium position. And well, once again, it is a race win for Tyrrell Schnitzel. His 6th victory from the first 7 races, with a third of the season gone. And he now has a championship lead of over 50 points. He's now got 2 race wins in hand. Unbelievable achievement from the TRL driver.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. 6 wins from 7 races. Daniel Alves did get 5th place from Alvaro Aznar. Danny MG in 7th. Casper steals 8th off of the one-stop in Blizzard due to penalties. He takes 9th. Alex coming across the line. He's about to take 10th position, and the final point should be okay from R2 on penalties, so he's going to take that final point. R2 across the line. No, R2 actually does jump him actually, so there was more penalties for Alex than I thought. So R2 for Ferrari takes a much needed point for the Scuderia, pushing Alex down to 11th, Wayne in 12th, and yeah, that is your field. But fantastic racing all round. We've seen a brilliant, phenomenal midfield scrap early doors as well through the middle part of the race. Wet to dry conditions, but it's Schnitzel for the 6th time this season already. And if we were having interviews, if it wasn't for the delay, I'd be asking him, are you thinking about the championship? Maybe I'll ask him next time out in France.
Yes, I mean, Tyrrell Schnitzel, this is he's got to enjoy this. It's such a golden period for him in terms of this particular division AOR at the moment. He can do no wrong. he might be slightly disappointed with his qualifying, but he made it count. Made some excellent decisions on track, early overtakes, very ruthless, particularly at that hairpin. He had such good, judgment of the braking zones there. So here is our provisional result then for the AOR F1 Canadian Grand Prix. Tyrrell Schnitzel takes the checkered flag, and Williams Michael in P2, Speedbarry with his third podium of the season. He will be slightly disappointed. I think he couldn't convert it into at least a P2 today, because he definitely had the speed. Jim Roy in P4, best result of the season. Dan Alves, his first points of the season. Alvaro Aznar on his debut as a full-time driver, P6. Danny MG in P7. Casper in P8. Blizzard, good points in P9. P10 for R2. Alex in P11. Tactics in P12. Weirzel Wayne in 13. Lee Finley, your final finisher on track. And Steve Rossi, Nardi Perez and Nicholas Mateo are your only retirements for this particular race. So we're going to just switch gears a little bit now. We're not going to have race interviews tonight. We're just going to briefly talk about what we saw during that particular race. So Andy, in terms of the top three, well-deserved podium for all three. Michael just didn't quite have the speed to hold Tyrrell Schnitzel off in the end.
No, I just couldn't quite manage it in the end. Schnitzel's battery management was a key point in him getting the move done. Michael was really going through the battery, he couldn't harvest it back up enough, and the Mercedes had 100% for a good chunk of the time. Took a few laps to set it up and then just made his move, and boom, job done, into the lead of the race. And it's becoming a question of who can stop him running away with this, because at the moment he is basically running off with this championship. 6 wins and a second place. He's never been lower than second. We even seen him coming from 7th tonight on the grid to come through and still take the victory. So he is really showing us what is possible here this season, and it's been a phenomenal show to watch. I just want to give a quick shout on the penalty side of things. I've obviously mentioned that Lee Finley and Alvaro Aznar, 15 seconds worth of penalties was probably enough to take you back to Narnia, but R2 taking that final point, he did not have a single penalty. He was the only driver that didn't have a single penalty in this race, so well done to the Finn. Picks up a much needed point for Ferrari as well, but it's all about Mercedes up front.
Yes, and well, LR2, not only that, he I would say had the overtake of the race with that brilliant move on Nicholas Mateo around the outside into the second chicane. And well, looking back at the start, it was a solid start from Danny AMG, who took that surprise pole position today. But yeah, it seems to me that Danny AMG, he missed a trick once he went to dries. He went on the hard tyres, and that clearly wasn't the right decision, was it? Because he tumbled down the field after that.
Yeah, he lost a few positions very quickly after the pit stop phase, because the tyres just took, I'm guessing must have just took too long to warm up. A lot of people were saying to me pre-race, these hard compound tyres just aren't the ones to be on. They will go for a long period of time, but especially with the overcast conditions that we had around that pit stop phase because of the weather, it just obviously took longer to heat up than the mediums, and they just got a bit swamped. He did have quite a few penalties by the end of the race, for 12 seconds worth as well, so he was pushing it. He was really trying to get that time back, but just not able to do it. But still some good solid points. If he can keep doing that when he's called upon on each week. He is now the first reserve with Alvaro Aznar moving up to Williams full-time. You never know, Danny might end up with a full-time seat if someone else was to drop out during the season. So it's a learning curve for everybody, and I'm sure he'll pick up from that and make a better decision next time by.
Yes, and well, that brings us to the end of our coverage of the Canadian Grand Prix for AOR F1 on PS4. So in a week's time, we go from one French country to another. We will cross the Atlantic Ocean to return to Formula 1's European heartland, beginning with the French Grand Prix. Thanks for watching, everybody, and see you next time on AOR.